Hello, everyone. It's Brett Daniels with the College Football Playoff. Thank you for joining us here today. We're opening up with the Alabama press conference with Coach Nick Saban. Coach Saban will let you have a few opening remarks, and we'll turn it over to question and answer.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the College Football Playoff and all the people who've worked hard to give our team, our players, as well as Ohio State's players who had a great year, the opportunity to play, in the College Football Playoff National Championship game. I know this has been a little bit of a trying year for a lot of folks, but you all have done a great job to give the players an opportunity to compete in a game like this, something that, will be a keepsake for them for the rest of their lives. We're excited about having the opportunity to play against a great Ohio State team. These guys are really well coached. Ryan Day's done a great job there. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country in terms of points allowed, tough to run against, really explosive on offense, really good skilled players outside. They do a great job of running the ball and controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. So very challenging game for us all the way around. But, these are the kind of games, if you're a competitor, you really look forward to playing in. And this is a great opportunity for our players to compete against a great team.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now turn it over to question and answer. Please use the raise hand function if you have an interest in asking Coach a question. Today's first question will come from Pat Ford at Sports Illustrated.
Nick, I know winning is always the objective, but is there any more satisfaction or less satisfaction from winning a defensive battle versus a shootout? Is one style of play any more satisfying than the other?
I don't think so. I think you have to do what you have to do to execute, play well in the game, give yourself an opportunity to win. Every game can, have an ebb and flow that may end up being a little bit different, and you just got to keep playing the next play and hope that you can do the things to finish the game so you give yourself an opportunity to be successful and have a chance to win.
Thank you. Next up is Nathan Baird.
Hi, Nick. Just curious if you could expound more on your thoughts on Ohio State's defense and maybe especially what you saw them do against Clemson in the Sugar Bowl that impressed you.
Well, they were very impressive on the line of scrimmage. Clemson had a tough time running the ball. They've got a great back and a lot of quarterback runs that they did a really good job against. But, they were physical up front. They did a good job of pressing the pocket. I think they played outstanding. Their secondary played well enough, made the plays they needed to make in the game. They've got a lot of good athletes on defense. They're physical, they're athletic, they can run. They play well together. So this is a very talented group.
Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from Patrick Murphy.
Thank you. Nick, similar question, but on Ohio State's offense, Trey Sermon's a guy who's emerged recently after transferring from Oklahoma. What have you guys seen from him, and how much do you look at these last two games as compared to the rest of his career since he's had games late?
Well, he's playing outstanding football right now. There's no doubt about that. He had a fantastic game against Clemson. I think they have two really good running backs. Both are very capable. So their offensive line does a really good job of blocking your looks up front, getting a hat on a hat. And the runners are very talented. So the combination of the explosive ability that they have in the passing game, the good receivers that they have outside, the speed that they have, the way they can stretch the field with the playmakers they have. Quarterback can run or pass and can make all the throws. So, there's just a good all-around team, and they have great balance. And I think that's what makes them very difficult to defend.
Next up, we'll hear from Ralph Russo.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for doing this. You've been asked a lot about your receivers, and Devonta's having an amazing year. Aside from just you're throwing the ball more, and teams in college football are throwing the ball more, the emphasis on that position seems to have grown over in recent years. Why?
Well, I think that anytime you have guys playing any skilled position and they have ability to make explosive plays, you want to try to take advantage of that the best you can. And I think sort of the advent of the spread offense, more spread formations, four open kind of formations, spreads the field, which gives players on the perimeter a much better chance to make plays. And you have to tackle well in space. You got to get these guys on the ground, even if they catch short passes and turn them into long runs. And their ability to, throw the ball down the field. And I think, the passing game in college football is probably what has sort of evolved in a very positive way for most people. RPOs probably contribute to that to some degree, but really good play action passes that go along with the running game that most teams have, like Ohio State has great play action pass game, which they had a lot of explosive plays on. I think having those kind of skill guys that can score points or something that you certainly want to try to feature. And I see more and more teams trying to do that.
Next up, we'll hear from Dennis Dodd. Dennis?
Hey, Nick, thanks for doing this. You've had such great success with juniors, advising them whether to stay or go. I wonder what that conversation was like with Najee. And obviously it's paid off this year with the kind of season he's had.
Well, I think what we try to do is be realistic with the players in terms of helping them make a good business decision for, them and their family. It's ultimately their decision. And I think that we try to make them aware of, how the money sort of goes down in the draft. And do you have a chance to improve your value if you stay and play college football? There's no developmental league in football, different than baseball has minor leagues, hockey has a minor league, NBA has a D league or whatever it is, where they can develop players. But, football is kind of all or nothing when you sign up for the NFL. And so the one place that you can continue to develop and create value for yourself is to stay in school. If your draft grade is not what you think it could be, then you have a chance to enhance your value. And when you enhance your value and the guaranteed money that you get, it also creates security for you and is really the best way to, help your family.
Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from Bill Rabinowitz.
Hi, Nick. Obviously, your offense is elite, and I know your defense has had a couple games when it gave up a lot of points. How do you view the way your defense has played? And as a defensive coach in an era of exploding offenses, how do you kind of assess, how does that make you assess or reassess how well a defense is playing?
Well, I think that, consistency and performance is really, at the end of the day, what determines, how well you're playing. And we have played well in some games, this year. Other games, not as good as we'd like. And as coaches, we need to do a better job of putting our players in a better position so they have a chance to be successful. We played I think we played 4 top 10 teams this year and some very explosive offensive teams, and been very challenged with, 4 out of 5 new starters in the secondary. And those guys have improved dramatically. And I think we need to continue as a team on defense to focus on things that we can improve on so that we can play with a little more consistency game in and game out.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll hear from Kirk Bowles. Kirk?
Yeah, Nick, is there anything about Steve Sarkisian that separates him from other offensive coordinators that you've had? And since you'll be playing him in a couple of years at Texas, why can't any of your former assistants beat you in a game?
Well, I think that's probably only a matter of time. We've had a lot of great coaches here, and they've done a great job for us, and we're always happy to see them, get opportunities. That's what I think they work hard for. When you're an assistant, whether you're an assistant to be a coordinator to become a head coach. And, Sark has done a marvelous job here. He's very well organized. He works well with all the people in the organization, players and coaches alike. He's a good play caller on game day. He does a really good job of preparing the players game plan wise for, each and every game. And he's just done a great job, and he's been a real asset to our organization. And, I think he'll be very successful as a head coach. So, and he's taken over a good program. So it's going to be challenging for anybody that plays them in the future, I think.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Charlie Potter. Charlie?
Hey, Coach, I just want to ask you about the Heisman Trophy ceremony tomorrow. You've obviously attended several of these in person, but this one's virtual. Just what are your plans to watch it, and how happy are you for guys like Mack and Smitty to be named finalists?
Well, I'm really happy for our players, all players that have a chance to be recognized. It's always great, and you always love it when your players get recognition. But there's a lot of players on our team that have done a great job all year that are not going to receive recognition. And I think that's a lesson in life, because sometimes you do great things in life and you don't get recognized for it, but you have to kind of satisfy yourself in knowing that you did your best to be the best you could be. And I certainly feel like the guys that are up for awards and have an opportunity, hopefully, to win some of these awards have done just that. And hopefully they'll get rewarded for it. Internally, we kind of keep our plans, to ourselves in terms of what we're going to do. And I'm going to talk to the players about it today.
Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from Michael Casagranada.
Just Nick, what you guys learned from that 2018 title game with the coaching distractions surrounding departures, and how do you think that will help this week with Steve Sarkisian?
Well, I think we've had several of these situations where we've had guys playing in the national championship game and guys are getting head coaching jobs someplace else. And I think it's up to each individual. I went through it when I became the head coach at Michigan State, and I was a defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns with Bill Belichick. And we had like 5 or 6 games left to play in the season and had a chance to get in the playoffs, which we did, and went too deep in the playoffs, won the first game, lost the second. But I think you just have to, separate yourself and focus on, look, if it wasn't for the players, at the Cleveland Browns being the best defense, I probably would have never got the Michigan State job. So you kind of owe it to the players to give your best, to do your best to help them get prepared for the game so they can play well in the game. That's how I always felt. I think that's how Sark feels. And, most of the guys in the past have been able to do that and been effective. And it's not been a distraction for us. And, we're going to try to help manage it every way that we can so that it's not a distraction for us this year.
Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from Dan Hope.
Hey, Nick, wanted to ask you about Ryan Day. How well do you know him, and kind of what do you see in him as an offensive play caller?
Well, I don't know Ryan well. I've met him before. I think he's an outstanding coach. I think they do a fantastic job, with their team, the way their team competes, the way their team plays, the discipline, the togetherness that they have, the way they execute. And offensively, he does a good job of, trying to manage and control the tempo of the game on offense. And they do a really good job of executing, which is all about, coaching your players to know what to do, how to do it, why it's important to do it that way. And they do it extremely well, and they present lots of problems with the system and the scheme that they run, but they do a good job of executing it, which is really probably the most important thing, you like to see, as a coach. And Ryan's certainly done that there at Ohio State, really with his entire team. But, I know he's probably a little bit more involved with the offense, and they do an outstanding job.
And our final question today for Coach comes from Lane Higgins. Lane?
Hey, Coach. Thanks so much for taking this. I wanted to ask a little bit about one of the things you mentioned earlier with kind of this passing revolution that's happened in college football. And it seems like a lot of that began, at least for your program, the last time that you played Ohio State in the championship game in 2014. And I'm curious, how much do you think that game was maybe a watershed in how Alabama approached, offensive play calling and structure, and also maybe, as Alabama goes, so does college football.
Well, that was a great game. I think the score was like 42-35. They had a great team. We had a very good team, and as it turned out, they won pretty handily in the national championship game. So, which indicates, what a great team they had. So I don't know that any of our players on our team were around, back then. So I don't know how that affects this game. I think this game is all about how do you prepare for this game. What do you do today and every day leading up to this game to prepare yourself to play the best that you're going to play, assuming that the guy you're going to play against may be the best guy you played against all year. So I think that's got to be more the focus. And I don't know that the history of that game has a whole lot of impact on how we think or what we do or how our players think in terms of what they need to do.
Thank you for your time today, Coach.
All right,
everyone,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Just to let everyone on the call here know, Coach Saban will be available again later in the week with our expanded media day. Next up on the call will be Devonta Smith. He'll be joining us here momentarily. I might add, if you have raised your hand for a question for Coach Saban, if you don't mind lowering that at this time, and then if you are interested in asking a question of Devonta, you can go ahead and raise your hand there. Thank you. Devonta, thank you for joining us here today.
How you doing?
Great. I'll let you make an opening remark if you'd like, and then we'll turn it over to questions and answers from the media.
We can just get to the questions.
All right. We will get things rolling then. We will start with Cameron Buford.
Hey, Devontae. Will you talk about what it would mean to you and your family for you to win the Heisman Trophy Award tomorrow?
Right now, I'm not really worried about the Heisman Trophy. I'm just trying to come in with the team this weekend. Just look forward to getting onto the game plan for Ohio State.
Next up, we'll hear from Ralph Russo.
Hey, Devontae. Okay, well, I'll try a little different version of a Heisman question for you. Do you look at yourself as sort of like representing all receivers? In other words, receivers don't usually win this award. They often don't get even to be a finalist. Amari Cooper did, but it's not that often. Do you take some pride of sort of like representing not just yourself, but receivers?
I guess you can say that, just showing that it really just the person that goes out and just puts in the work, and they're going to get the things that they deserve. So if you work for things, you're going to get the things that you deserve.
Next up, we'll hear from Mark Stallworth. Mark.
How you doing, Devonta? Welcome to Miami. Just had a question. It seems like you're very familiar with playing in Hard Rock Stadium. So could you explain, I guess, having your last game here at the Orange Bowl, and how do you plan on utilizing that familiarity with the field? to your advantage this week?
It really don't matter what we play at. Just spot the ball. I'm ready.
All right. Next up will be Pat Murphy. Patrick.
Devonta, I'm curious just what you've seen from Ohio State's secondary, specifically Sean Wade. He came back this year to kind of prove himself. And I'm curious your perspective on what he's done and the matchup that you guys will have with that secondary.
I really haven't watched film yet. I haven't got the chance to watch film yet. I'm going to kind of dig into it today. So hopefully I get into it today and I can see some things that interesting for us.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Steve Mouton. Steve Mouton.
Hey, Devonta, congratulations on a successful season. I can't help but want to ask really where you got that team before me kind of mentality, because we obviously hear it in these answers. So tell me a little bit of your background and why the team mentality kind of is ingrained in you.
Just because you're not out there playing by yourself. With team success comes individual success. So if the team's doing good, then everybody's doing good, and that's what it all comes down to.
Okay. Next, we'll hear from Scott Rabels. Scott.
All right. Can you hear me? Sorry for that. You've always been a big part of the offense going back to your freshman year, but with Jalen getting hurt earlier this year, how did that change your role, or did it change your attitude and feeling like I have to be more of a contributor to this offense or a leader in this offense?
Well, just me being the competitor I am, I want to just do whatever I can to help the team, and that's what it came down to. Just everybody on the offense feel like they can do more to help the team, and that's what we all been trying to do.
All right. Next up, we'll hear from Michael Casagrande.
Yeah, Devonta, you remember that 2018 team that was undefeated to this point in the season and didn't finish the way you wanted in California. How is that a motivating factor this week to keep this legacy of this team, undefeated, as opposed to a team that came this close and almost got there?
The past is the past. Nothing we can do about it now. We're just focusing on this week and how we can prepare for this game and just make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Next up, we'll hear from Joseph Goodman. Joseph.
Mute. Yeah. Hey, Devonta, congratulations on the amazing season. I was hoping you could talk to me a little bit about how the power of believing in yourself has shaped your life. And also, I wanted you to kind of clue me into when you got your when you got your last growth spurt. I think you went from 125 at some age when you were in high school. Was this right? I was reading back through some stories.
I don't remember, but it was probably somewhere around that.
How has the power of believing in yourself then shaped your life?
Just you gotta believe in the things you do. If you don't believe in it, then why are you doing it? You can't just be out here doing something that you don't believe in. So you put your mind to some things, and eventually, it's gonna happen.
How many people told you you couldn't be a football player?
I heard it a lot all my life.
Thanks.
Next, we'll hear from Luke Krause. Luke.
Hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. Coming into the college football playoff, Ohio State had some disrespect to the program, with people saying they do not deserve to get in. Were y'all looking ahead to Clemson playing in the national championship? And was it a shock to you that Clemson lost and you'll now have to face Ryan Day's Ohio State?
I mean, I'm not part of the committee, so I have no say-so in who they put in or who they wanted to put in. At the end of the day, we just show up here, practice, and get ready for whoever the next opponent is.
Next up will be Jeff Spiegel. Jeff.
Yes, Devontae. Last year's Citrus Bowl, how important do you think that game was in terms of a launching off point for this 2020 team?
I think it was very important just to give everyone something to think about of how like the season went, and it wasn't where we wanted to be, but just to end everything on a good note to kind of be like, okay, we see what next year is going to look like, and we know what we have to do to get things right.
We have time for 2 more questions. The next will be from Mike Rodak. Mike.
Devontae, how did Sark break the news that he was going to Texas, and what was the reaction among players?
We had a meeting. Coach Saban told us about it. I mean, everybody's happy for Coach Sark. I mean, that's part of the business. But he's going to be here with us throughout this last game, and we're trying to finish things the right way.
And our final question today will be from Rob Aller. Rob.
Hey, Devontae, the Nick Saban you see is not the Nick Saban we see. If you had to describe him to somebody on the outside, how would you do that?
He's very funny. It may not seem like it to y'all, but he has a sense of humor.
Do you have an example of that? And how often do you see it?
Every day at practice. It's always every day at practice.
All right. Thank you very much, Devontae. Best of luck. We'll see you later in the week. We will wrap up today with Patrick Surtain, who'll be joining us here momentarily.
There we go.
Hello, Patrick. Thank you for joining us here today. We'll open up here to questions and answers. We'll start today with Bill Rabinowitz. Bill, please go ahead and ask your question.
It took a second for that to pop up. When you watched Ohio State's offensive performance on Friday, whether it was live or on video, what were your impressions, and how much of a challenge is that going to be for you guys?
They're very dominant in the passing game and the run game. Very balanced, very efficient. We know it's going to be a challenge. We're just going to have to go in the film room and prepare like we need to.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Charlie Potter. Charlie.
Yeah, hey Pat. Just wanted to ask you about Mac and Smitty. Just how happy are you guys for them to be Heisman finalists, and what's it been like for you as a defensive player to go up against them too this year?
They probably not as excited as we are, but as a team, we're very excited for them. They deserve it. A very prestigious award. You know, they worked hard for it, and we're just excited for it tomorrow. You know, whoever wins it, we're gonna be happy for them. You know, just going against some guys every day, you know, it makes me better as a football player, but it also taught me, like, you know, going against guys like that, when you go on the field, it makes you 100 times better on game day. So, you know, it was a great opportunity for me. And, you know, with that individual success comes team success as well. Without the team, you know, we never would have known about those awards like that. So, you know.
Next, we'll hear from Nathan Baird. Nathan.
Hey, Patrick, how does it help you as a defensive player to play for a team with an offense that can put up 50 or more against anybody?
It's very helpful. I say our offense helps us sometimes. You know, we just go in and prepare like we need to, but knowing the offense, the type of offense we have, we're not anxious or very upright at all, knowing what they could do and what they're capable of.
Next, Dennis Dodd. Dennis.
Hey, Patrick, where's this team at if Najee turns pro last year?
Say it again.
Where's this team at if Najee decides to turn pro last year instead of coming back?
Oh, we was when he came back, we were all very, very excited. He's a very good player. But if he wasn't here, we had to look to the drawing board, and I'm pretty sure whoever steps in will do great as well. So.
Next, Patrick Murphy. Patrick.
Patrick, I'm curious how much you've watched of Ohio State's receiving core, specifically Chris Olave, who obviously had the big game against Clemson, what you've seen out of that group.
They're very finesse type of receivers. They got speed, they're vertical threats, but they also run great routes. It's going to be a challenge for us as a secondary and as a unit. So we're going to watch film on them and prepare like we need to focus on, their concepts and what they like to do.
Next, we'll hear from Tim May. Tim.
Thank you very much. I was wondering, Patrick, as you watched Justin Fields, I would think you watched a little bit of that game the other night. Maybe you didn't, but he got hit in the back, came back in that game, threw for over 300 yards against those guys. And just what's your impression of Justin Fields, both from what you've heard about him through the last couple of years and then coming out of that game on Friday night?
He's a high competitor. He leads the team the right way. They go off of him, and for him to come back in the game, that just shows, like I said, what type of competitor he is and what type of toughness he has. And their team success, builds around him. So, he's a great player all in all.
Next, we'll hear from Stephen Means. Stephen.
Hey, Patrick. Pre-injury, how did going against Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith in practice every day, that combination of a slot receiver and an outside receiver, maybe can prepare you for what you're going to see against Ohio State with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave?
Going against those guys every day in practice, it's like a game day type of situation. So, like, every time I go against them, I treat it like a game, like a situation, like I said. And it helps me prepare for the game, because you're going to see talent like that in the game. But it doesn't get any better than that, what you go against in practice. So, it helps me get better and see what I could improve on and stuff like that.
Next, we'll hear from Ashley Herman. Ashley.
Hey, Pat, I know you probably are thinking about this, but, playing at home, how much does that mean to you? And where does it fall in your mind? Is it stay in the back of your mind, or where does that fall in importance?
It's pretty exciting, to play back at home. But, it doesn't matter where we play at. We still got to play 60 minutes of the football game, and focus on what we need to do and control what we need to control. So I'll say it's another game, and just no matter the setting or no matter where it's at, we still got to play.
Next, we'll hear from Dan Hope. Dan.
Hey, Patrick, you guys have had a couple games against Ole Miss and Florida where your defense gave up a lot of points. Just what do you think went wrong for your defense in those games? And does that concern you at all going to play an offense like Ohio State?
Going to those games, I felt like we wasn't as communicative as we needed to be. We wasn't flying around. We gave up big plays due to mental errors and stuff like that. Things that we can improve on in the film room and in practice. And, we just focus on and control on what we need to do to improve each week. So looking forward to this game, nothing's changed. We just got to, focus and prepare the right way.
Thank you. Next is Bill Rabinowitz. Bill?
Yes, I already asked my question, but I will ask another one. What stands out to you the most about Justin Fields?
His arm. Got a tremendous arm. He's very accurate as well. He could put the ball wherever he needs to, and he's very mobile in the pocket. He's a virtual threat. He could beat teams multiple ways with his arm and legs. So, he's a good player.
Next up, we'll hear from Anthony Euro. Anthony?
Hey, Pat, so talk about coming back home. What's the feeling of knowing that family and friends are going to be there to watch you play at Hard Rock?
It's going to be a tremendous feeling. Having them come and support me back at home, it'd be a great feeling. I just got to show out and make them happy, make them proud,
Yeah, and one more question for you. How does it feel, to give any advice to anybody from South Florida to be in the position that you are today?
I just say work hard, and South Florida, there's talent everywhere. So your name will get called, and you will be on a bright stage like this. So just keep working and keep striving to perfection.
And our final question for today is from Steve Mouton. Steve?
A lot of questions about the secondary heading into the season, and certainly you've elevated your game. There's no doubt about that. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on Brian Branch and really what you've seen development-wise out of him.
Brian, he grew each week, and he's gotten better. He's more confident out there. He's not a freshman anymore. Like going into the season like this, he's a sophomore, a vet, and he's playing like it too. The more and more you see each week of him, he gains more confidence, and you can see it in his play. So, the sky's the limit for him, and he's a hard worker. So you can't take that away from him. So he's gonna keep on striving for greatness.
Thank you very much, Patrick. That concludes today's Alabama press conference. In about 20 minutes, we will begin with Ohio State here at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. But just as a reminder, transcripts of all of today's calls will be available on collegepressbox.com shortly after the conclusion of each session. We'll see you in about 20 minutes.